A massive epidemic spreads around the world, wiping billions of people. To preserve humanity, the only survivors are put into a cryogenic deep sleep, just to wake up 1,000 years later and find their world filled with monsters and chaos. In the city of New York, there is a sense of serenity as its inhabitants go about their daily business. But it is quickly shattered when a lady falls from a very high building, crashing onto the road. But instead of the typical horrific bloody view, they see dust, as if the lady was a statue. In an emergency session, the World Health Organization reports that it has identified a new virus, which they are calling Medusa. The virus causes an individual to turn into a solid, stone-like corpse. It is also revealed that the infection has an incubation period of 30 to 60 days, after which the fatality rate is 100%. Overnight, the nation's borders are flooded with refugees trying to flee the country. The United Nations Security Council declared a global state of emergency. Vega, the CEO of the major chemical manufacturer, Venus Gate, announces a shocking plan at a company press conference. He says that it is time for his corporation to fulfill its duty to society and unveil the top-secret project they have been working on. The project is known as Cold Sleep. After that announcement, the USA decides to hold a meeting, stating the virus must have been created by Vega's company. The disease quickly spreads, becoming a global epidemic. The project Cold Sleep starts running, and 160 randomly chosen people are transferred to a cryogenic center in Scotland, and will fall into a deep sleep until scientists find a cure for the virus. One of the chosen is our protagonist Kasumi. She is quiet and reserved and is devoted to her sister, Shizuku, who is accompanying her and has been infected with the virus. Kasumi and her sister move into a cold sleep building alongside others. Shizuku is very excited by everything and offers her card to the receptionist in charge. Kasumi is told to stretch out her left hand. The receptionist puts a bracelet on her wrist, informing her that only people wearing the bracelet can go further inside. Kasumi attends the orientation led by Vega, the inventor of the cold sleep process, introducing them to the Alice system. Alice is the most cutting-edge artificial intelligence control system ever devised. The system has been designed to perpetually monitor and maintain the health of all the patients as well as the castle itself and all peripheral equipment. Calculations show that Alice will continue serving the patients for over 100 years. Vega says that Alice has been programmed to protect everyone wearing a bracelet. Even during the orientation, Alice has been literally stalking their health, mental state, and immediate surroundings. Kasumi checks her bracelet and we see some scars underneath it, revealing that she has depression. Kasumi considers not going through the slumber because she will be alone for 100 years without her sister. The girls are arguing outdoors because Kasumi does not want to sleep alone. So, despite her sister's obvious sadness, she tells her that she believes they will someday meet again. The appointed time arrives and all the patients are directed to deposit their belongings, as they aren't allowed in the chambers. Only glasses and hearing aids will be allowed inside the capsule chamber. All the patients change into comfortable clothing and are injected with a microchip as part of the cryogenic process. A large room opens and they all go in. It is their destination, the cold sleep chamber. Kasumi does as instructed and gets into the cryogenic chamber while leaving her glasses on the tray alongside the bed. They are all put to sleep and bed pods are closed and moved into the pod enclosures. A series of gunshots awaken Kasumi and the others and they see that their capsule is open. She puts her glasses on and sees the place covered by vines. They get down from their beds and wonder if the cure has been found and how many years have passed. Someone calls their attention to someone else lying on the ground. Kasumi tries to get down as a mutated bat flies in her direction, knocking her off balance. She slips down to the capsule below hers, and then further down until she is rescued by two men, saving her from serious injury. As she regains herself, masses of scary and devilish-looking bats begin to flood the room. The bats begin to attack their faces and bodies and blood splashes in all directions. A man signals to all of them to get into the elevator. As she makes for the elevator, Kasumi runs into a man. She tries to help him, asking if he is alright, but he pushes her aside, ignoring her. Another lady finds a little boy looking lost and asks if he is alright, but he seems rather amused by everything that is happening. She takes him and runs with him toward the elevator. On reaching the elevator, the group finds it does not open as they had hoped. They swear loudly at it in distress and desperation. The bats will not stop attacking. The elevator doors finally open, but there is only a deep chasm, and those closest to the edge find themselves falling to their death down the elevator shaft. The bats are still attacking the surviving patients, but fortunately, someone finds a door to a small room into which they all crowd to escape. Out of the 160 participants, only 7 managed to reach the small room and stayed alive. Kasumi, Marco, Catherine, Peter, Tim, Ron, and the old man. The group tries to understand everything that has happened. They deliberate on how to move forward as a strange sound is heard. They all bind their bare feet with pieces of cloth to avoid injuries from the vines. Kasumi wonders why Marco, the jacked-up criminal, looks so familiar. The group quickly comes to a halt in a waterlogged area. They are besieged by a creature who detaches the head of the old man. The others are horrified and then take to their heels to save their lives. Chased into a tunnel. Kasumi is nowhere to be located. According to Catherine, Marco searches for her and discovers her unconscious under the water. He then saves her with the assistance of Peter. The little boy is terribly excited as he says they have beaten stage 2 of his game. The group discovers that they are encircled by a dozen Demonsaurus. They flee for their life as Marco tries to slow the creatures down. They arrive at a semi-open gate, find some rifles, and blow out the monsters. But to their surprise, the monster corpses turn into dust, revealing they also got infected by the Medusa virus. They reassemble in a security room after surviving this stage, where they treat minor injuries and reload their weapons, while using the computers in the room to figure out their situation. Catherine has a nervous breakdown and threatens to slap Tim. She then regains consciousness and hugs and apologizes to him. The cop, Ron, makes a humorous joke about Catherine keeping something from her past hidden. However, Marco believes Peter is the imposter since he is wearing a necklace, a possession no one should possess. They machine gun him with questions until he snaps and takes Kasumi hostage and runs to the elevator. In the elevator, Peter makes an interesting remark, asking what is she, explaining that he saw her in his dream after the cold sleep began. Kasumi ends up falling asleep and we get to see about her past. Her parents passed away due to the virus, and she freaked out destroying the house after finding out she and Shizuko got also infected by it. As she's about to wake up, she sees her sister lose her head, turning into stone. She wakes up and looks about. To her surprise, it's Vega's lab. She notices several previous monsters in water tanks, each with a tag indicating that they are samples. She continues on and overhears Marco and Peter conversing. After Marco has left, Peter informs Kasumi that he is the creator of the cryogenic capsules. He also reveals that his work was misused by someone who developed everything, and is currently monitoring them. He hands her a chip and tells her to tell the world the truth when she gets out. At that moment, they get attacked and Peter loses his life. The monster turns to Kasumi, but Marco enters the room and shoots the thing. They run for their lives, however the monster is chasing them relentlessly until they reach a dead end. Ron and Catherine suddenly appear and saves them. Throwing cocktail Molotovs at the monster, the chip falls from Kasumi's hands and catches fire. The group reassembles and rests in a storage room. After Kasumi tells them about him and Peter, they confront Marco's identity. He explains that he is a member of the British military, dispatched to investigate and blow up the building if he can prove that Vega designed Medusa as a bioweapon. However, something began slamming the door. It was the man himself, Vega. He reveals that a test subject became uncontrollable and escaped his grasp. The Cold Sleep Project is simply a research project to learn how to influence dreams and make them come true. They ascend through a hidden path, and Vega recounts how it all began. A meteorite struck a Siberian village 8 years ago. Except for one girl, all of the occupants died of an unexplained sickness. They suspected a virus, but the problem was a bloodthirsty beast. Vega's soldiers engaged it and brought it down in a hail of shattering bullets. This strange monster is a cross between a serial killer monkey and a Mewtwo. They discovered that our biology did not apply to the creature after examining it. Further investigation reveals that the creature was fabricated by the girl's mind, making a link between the girl's small demon monkey and Medusa. He leads them to a chamber where the little girl called Alice is, who has supposedly passed away, but her consciousness lives on as an AI. Vega tries to eliminate himself, but Kasumi and Marco stop him and demand he take them to the out-of-control test subject, as Kasumi suspects that it's her sister, Shizuko. However, thorn vines broke through the ground, revealing a monster. Everyone flees save Marco, who remains to fight. However, just as he is ready to enter the afterlife, Ron stabs the monster with a sword before turning into stone. Alice takes over Tim's body and leads them to a dead end, stating she is safeguarding the appropriate host as part of her job. The crew determines that jumping into the rising water is their only option for survival. They make it outside the castle and discover it is surrounded by thorns. Kasumi rushes up the hill where she last saw her twin sister and notices a camera on the ground. She switches it on and views a video of her sister suffering a seizure. She recognizes that the thorns are the result of her sister's fantasies. She hurries back to the castle, and Marco attempts to stop her by telling her that her sister is no longer the girl she remembers. But Kasumi refuses and proceeds to enter the castle. Marco enters the same room where Kasumi is, and when she asks if Tim and Catherine are alright, he says he doesn't think so. He resolves to assist her in finding Shizuko, and the two rush to the suspected location. When Marco and Kasumi arrive at the facility, Marco begins to get visions of his sister, the same girl who jumped off a skyscraper in New York. She begins hitting him, exposing herself to be Alice, who has taken control of his mind. She informs him that Medusa is a type of mental infection. It primarily infects persons who have experienced trauma, as their minds are vulnerable enough for the virus to take control. Marco begins to analyze the circumstances and comes to the conclusion that she is influencing his awareness via the chip Team Venus Gate put into the volunteers' necks. So he shoots himself in the neck, snapping back to reality. He succeeds to shut down Alice's system, but receives a hefty hit to the stomach in the process. Meanwhile, Kasumi is dealing with Alice's delusions as well. She begins conversing with a thorn-based Shizuku clone, who encourages her to go and enjoy a happy life. Kasumi rejects and insists on speaking with her sister. Despite Alice's efforts, Kasumi manages to continue, despite being hurt by the thorns. Shizuku loses control of her dream when Alice eventually shuts down, providing Kasumi with an opportunity to crawl to her sister's lifeless body. Alice reappears and grabs Kasumi's leg, telling her not to gaze at Shizuku's body. When Kasumi glances at Shizuku's wrists, she starts experiencing flashbacks about everything that has transpired. Kasumi was so disturbed over going through the slumber alone that she tried double deletion after her sister walked to the hill. Shizuku clung to the ledge, reluctant to die, and when she looked down, Kasumi's lifeless body was hugging the floor. This painful view made Shizuku go berserk, and she dreamt about Kasumi still being alive. Alice allowed it to become reality. Kasumi is only alive because Shizuku is dreaming about it. Shizuko pulls Kasumi out of the falling roof with a vine as the castle begins to crumble. Marco catches her midair and they leap out of the building. However, Shizuko once again controls the vines to grab them and carefully place them on the ground before each vine turns to stone. Marco, who is sitting on the floor, encourages Kasumi to enjoy a good life before taking his final breath with a smile on his lips. Kasumi kisses him on the cheek before going to seek for anyone else in the region with Tim, the only other person still alive.